Hey everybody, welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid in another installment of October Nights, 31 Tales for the Halloween Season by me, available on Amazon in print or Kindle. The link is in the description box below. If you can't afford the books, because I know these are rough times with coronavirus and whatnot, come by the channel because I'm going to read you the majority of the stories. Tonight's story is definitely very much appropriate for this platform, so hope you enjoy it. I want to show you something here. My son made this. He's down there making jack-o'-lanterns to decorate our house with, and so I grabbed one of them. I just wanted to show you his artwork. This is like angry jack-o'-lantern. We're doing things a little bit differently today. As you can tell, it's very bright. It's very sunny. It's because it's like, as of this reading, it's like almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We've been doing this at night, like just before dark, timing it perfectly to where we finish our tales after dark. But our internet's out. So what I'm doing is I'm recording this early, and I'm going to go into town and find a Wi-Fi hotspot and upload the video from my iPhone. Because sometimes when stuff goes out here, we're off the grid for quite a while because we're just so far out, and it's hard to get in touch with our service providers at times. But I didn't want you guys to miss tonight's story, so I'm going to do it here in the afternoon, give myself time to get into town, get it uploaded so you don't miss it. Tonight's story is called, it's October 7th, it's called Careful What You Wish For. There's a couple things going on in this story, and it's very, the timing to read this story is ironic because, we're only about 6 weeks away, I guess, from a major election. Now, I'm not political. I don't care. I really don't. But I used to work in the information industry, media. There's a lot of what's going on now in this story from the last election cycle. If you take away anything from this story, aside from some goosebumps and some nightmares, please take this away too. If you're getting your news or your information off of social media, let me tell you, you're not getting it from very reliable sources. And I'm not picking sides again, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. Pay close attention to this story, that aspect of the story, and then prepare to be scared as the story moves on from there, okay? Daggone Jim Brown over there starting up his lawnmower again. You wait till October 31st when you find out exactly who Jim Brown is. He weaves his way back into a few more of our stories here this October. But that's the kind of cantankerous thing he would do. Trifling, we call it down here in Virginia. All right, October 7. Careful what you wish for. This story is true, potentially. I'm sure you've heard it said, what goes up must come down. If it seems too good to be true, it probably isn't true. When the wind's at your back, prepare to duck. Well, unfortunately, these expressions are true, and I didn't listen. Here we were, after we'd made bank, and I mean some really mad cash, as in a mid-sized truckload of it, working the most recent, very heated presidential elections. I mean, let me tell you, if you can get yourself the right job working on a presidential campaign, there's a lot of money to be made. But when you can get yourself working on both campaigns, yes, that's right, the campaigns of both parties, the amount of money you can make seems as if it should be illegal. So am I a campaign manager? A publicist? Neither. A journalist? Not even. A blogger? Yep, that's right, a blogger. Ever seen any of those old movies like It's a Wonderful Life, where there's that one scene where everyone's getting in on the ground floor in plastics or cement or the stuff they now use to plumb houses with? I think it's called PEC. It's supposedly way better than the copper pipes they used to use. And if you got in on the ground floor in PEC, you're probably richer than the generation who got in on the ground floor in copper piping. Everyone thought that the days of getting in on the ground floor of something and making a killing from it were gone after the dot-com bubble, something that really turned out to be the dot-nots. Not true. Social media was the next big thing in America, and it made the world smaller, figuratively speaking, so it was also the next big thing around the world. And if you were able to get in on the ground floor in social media to any degree, man, was there bank to be made. And we did it with blogging. You see, People are more skeptical about what they see on the internet these days, but just a few years ago they believed every single thing they saw on the internet, because up until the advent of social media, when anyone and everyone could now be a know-it-all and a qualified source, much of what you did see on the internet was true, or in the case of mainstream media, at least somewhat true, just twisted and turned to fit an agenda. Sounded like something was walking just off to my left. I thought there'd be less of this since it's the middle of the afternoon, but I guess not. Get my 6. There's something back there. Not anymore. Not with social media, and largely because of all the online blogs, the owners of which spread their wares, so to say, by harnessing large social media pages and channels in order to distribute to a large following. For the first few years, well, up until the 2016 presidential election really, Facebook was the wild, wild west of information. Anyone could write anything they wanted to write and publish it to a blog and then post it on their Facebook page, and people bought it, hook, line, and sinker. It was all good if you went to these sources to get advice on how to cook a better casserole, or which baits worked best for bass in the summer, but if you were getting your news from these sources, may God have pity on you and what you think is really going on out there, because it's not. Don't think for a minute that the people writing that crap you read on the internet even believe any of it themselves. I know, because I was one of those guys. I'm a writer, first and foremost, and I can write about anything and make it sound true. Heck, I've written instruction manuals for Chinese manufacturing companies before because they needed someone to write instructions in English on how to put their stupid plastic pieces of crap things they make together, and they paid me handsomely to do it. Going into the elections, I'd write a story about how the Republican candidate would be best to lead our nation, especially due to whatever issue of the day that was going on at the time, etc., etc. And then I'd turn around and write the same dang piece stating that the Democratic candidate would be the best for the same reason, etc., etc. And then I'd publish one story on our blog that catered to conservatives, and I'd post the other on our blog that catered to liberals. I'd then write a piece about how much the Republican candidate sucked, and then one on how much the Democratic candidate sucked, so on and so forth. And then we'd distribute this garbage all over Facebook and make bank. Okay, so by we, I mean my wife and me. I did the writing, she did all the spamming to the various Facebook pages we either owned ourselves or that we had partnered with others on, allowing our partners, of course, to post on our pages. At one time, our collection of pages totaled more than 5 million fans, and our monthly blog views were over 10 million. What did that translate to in as far as money goes? Between $20,000 and $35,000 a month. And we did that for 2 years. Do the math. And then it all came tumbling down. What went up came crashing down. We'd known it seemed too good to be true, and it turned out it was. Unfortunately, when the wind was at our back, we forgot to duck. Mark Zuckerberg realized finally that there were tons of us out there making tons of money on fake Facebook, and he was getting no cut from any of it. And it wasn't just bloggers. Anyone who had anything to sell was reaching a worldwide audience on his platform, and up until the end of 2016 elections, they were doing so for free. Zuckerberg has never hidden his preference in politics. He is extremely liberal, and he detests President Trump. He thought, like many Democrats, the idea of Donald Trump, up until that time a real estate mogul and television celebrity, becoming president of the United States was downright laughable until Trump won the election. Zuckerberg lost his mind, and he made his bias in politics clear by swinging the axe against all conservative Facebook pages. That translates roughly into him shutting the pages down, completely eliminating them from Facebook, and permanently suspending the accounts of the page's owners. His given reason? Violation of Facebook terms and policies. As you can imagine, when you go from making $30,000 a month to practically making nothing, you get concerned. We contacted Facebook headquarters, and it was never explained to us what policies we'd violated. But hey, we still had our liberal pages because we were playing both sides from the middle, right? Wrong, as our new president would say. The double whammy was that Zuckerberg decided he'd start charging a toll fee, so to say, to post on your own Facebook pages, at least as far as allowing your followers to see your posts. Basically, you now had to pay $60 for up to 1,000 of your followers to be able to see your post if it had an external link. And there was no guarantee that your subscribers or followers would even click on the link if they saw the post. And in the world of blogging, if they don't click, you don't earn the advertising revenues, hence those clickbait titles that make you click. This meant we had to spend $60 in the hopes of making $3, which is how much we'd make if all of the 1,000 people our blog post was served to actually clicked on the link, which meant we were automatically losing $57. That math made no sense. Hence, we were now out of business. We've always paid our taxes. However, we paid them when we filed our taxes. One year, after having made hundreds of thousands of dollars and owing over $60,000 in federal and state income taxes, we laughed, knowing we had more than $100,000 in cash in the bank, and we were amazed to be able to pay the taxes in one fell swoop by way of electronic debit and still have loads of cash left over. The next year, after having made hundreds of thousands of dollars and owing about the same as the year before in taxes, we weren't laughing because the blogging bubble had burst thanks to Zuckerberg's political bias and greed right after the election, and we'd gone from making the numbers I've already bragged about to making less than $2,000 a month, and that is not an exaggeration. When the bubble burst, it did so like a nuclear explosion. When the taxes were due, we were broke and didn't have the money to pay them. How in the heck are we going to pay the taxes, my wife would ask, sitting in our backyard, which was larger than the neighborhoods we'd both grown up in. How are we going to pay the mortgage and keep this place, I'd say, in answer to her question, which I knew wasn't an answer, but it's what was on my mind. We'd managed to buy our dream home during the good times, and I didn't want to lose it during the bad times. At some point, we'd started a YouTube channel, but we'd never really focused on it. So we decided now might be the time to make it our saving grace. We began making videos about the things we do around our property, like gardening and raising chickens and rabbits and planting fruit trees, and we garnered a small audience, but we weren't putting up the numbers we needed to pay the bills. Until I got an idea. I've got it, I told her one day. What, she said. People love paranormal crap. Let's make videos claiming our place is haunted, and we'll get a larger audience, and the day is saved. That's stupid, she said. That stuff's not real. I know that, and you know that, I said, but there's tons of people out there who believe it. Let's give it a go. Whatever, she said. We've missed our first mortgage payment. We've got 2 months. I heard like a scream or a growl. Whatever, she said. We've missed our first mortgage payment. We've got 2 months to figure it out before they start foreclosure. We knew a bit about the history of our property, having been told it by the near 90-year-old lady we bought it from. Our house is roughly 120 years old, and it's had at least 4 deaths in it. Our driveway, for centuries, used to be the main road through our small, rural farming community. At one point, it would have had enslaved people marching along it on the way to auction down in the city, 20 miles away. There were Civil War battles fought in our fields. 3 of the people who died in the house, little girls during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, were buried in the woods out back. There was more fodder here to work with than anyone could imagine. Our first haunted video idea was simple. I was going to take the camera out and start talking as I walked up and down our long driveway in the dark. And we're out in the middle of nowhere, so when I say dark, I mean pitch black dark. I hope that lawnmower noise in the background isn't drowning me out. That's why I'm leaning a little bit closer into the phone here. My wife was going to hide about halfway up the driveway, and when I talked about the enslaved people on the way to auction, she was going to rattle some chains we'd laid out in the bushes. When I spoke of how Confederate soldiers marched up and down the road during the Civil War, she was going to light a lantern we had and trail me about 20 yards back. And when I got to the part of the road that was closest to the graves, she was going to cry like a little girl. The plan was foolproof, or should I say, fool-worthy. Honey, I said the night we were to shoot the video, it's dark. Let's get out there and get this done before it gets too late. I want to watch a movie on Netflix. Just wait, she said. I'm talking to my mother. My wife never looked up from her smartphone as she continued her conversation with my mother-in-law. Tell her you'll call her back, I said. Let's get this done, cried the raven. My wife usually loved the opportunity of using me as her excuse to get off the phone with her mother, so I had no doubt she was going to do it this time. Our driveway is long, close to a quarter of a mile, so I decided to take the camera, head out into the dark, and start walking down to the end of the drive and begin shooting the video. My wife certainly would get off the phone and head out and get in place. Her first spot of action was about 2/3 of the way down the driveway, so the logistics of it all seemed like good time management to me. Looking back on it now, I should have known something was different about the night air. Sure, it was October, and temperatures dropped quicker once darkness fell than they did in the summer, but when I went out and started walking down the drive, the temperature felt as if it had dropped a full 20 degrees in the 3 or 4 minutes it had taken me to head inside and tell my wife we were ready. You're just scaring yourself, I remember thinking. Then I thought nothing more of it. I got to the gate at the end of the drive, and I waited a full 5 minutes to allow my wife time to get in place. The moon was half full, and my eyes had adjusted to the light, and the gray of the gravel on the driveway stood out, so it'd be easy enough to see as I strolled up the drive, telling my story. I'd practiced my pacing during the day. The time in which I was trying to do it was 7 minutes, long enough to tell the story, but not so long that I'd lose the audience's attention. Ready or not, here I come, I said, hoping my wife could hear me. I heard the chains rattle, so I knew she was in place, and we were good to go. I clicked record on the camera and started heading up the driveway, telling my tale. Human beings were paraded down this road on their way to be sold once reaching the city, 20 miles away, a humiliating scar on our nation's history, I said as I passed the point in the drive where my wife and the chains lay a few yards away in the bushes. Right on cue, the chains rattled. But instead of following me up the drive, they ended up heading in the opposite direction quickly. Oh, crap, I remember thinking. My wife is totally screwing this up. Stay in character, stay in character. Maybe she's ad-libbing. If she had a plan, it was one I couldn't begin to figure out, because it sounded to me like the chains were heading for the next county, as if she were acting as if an enslaved person had escaped from bondage and was heading for Canada. I kept going, and when I was another third of the way up the long, dark driveway, I started talking about the Confederate soldiers who used to march along this very route. My wife must have dropped the chains and come running back without them as quickly as she'd run away with them, because exactly on cue, I saw a lantern light up behind me in the camera about 20 yards back. And then I saw another. And then I heard horse hooves. Stay in character, I remember thinking. Stay in character. Man, she is really ad-libbing, but how's she making those sounds? Is she using an app on her smartphone? The lanterns dimmed, and the sounds of horse hooves dissipated as quickly as they both appeared once I was another 100 yards up the driveway. I passed our house and headed to the edge of the woods and told the sad tale of how 3 sisters, all under the age of 12, had died in our house and were buried in these very woods. You know we're here, I heard a voice call softly from the woods. It should have been read like this, sorry. You know we're here, I heard a voice call softly from the woods. My wife was doing an excellent job of changing her voice. She was only supposed to fake the sounds of crying, but she'd been ad-libbing everything else so far, so this was dynamite. Can you see us? The voice came again. Can you hear us? These last 2 questions, however, came from different voices. Alas, my wife was making it sound as if all the voices were different. 3 different voices, as if they were truly coming from 3 different girls. My wife was really going above and beyond. I was feeling guilty now for having doubted her. I stopped filming after finishing up with something about what it's like living on a haunted property, and then I told my wife I'd stopped recording and to come on out. I heard nothing. I figured she must have quietly made her way back into the house while I was wrapping things up. I headed back into the house, and there, in the living room, sat my wife, still on the call with her mother. Crap, Mom, she said, I've got to go. Mr. Man is pissed. She got off the phone, and then she stood and walked to the back door, where I was still standing, and grabbed a light jacket, pulling it on as she slipped out the back door. Come on, she said. You're kidding, right? I said, following her outside. What? She said. There's still time for a movie. Come on, let's get this done and find out if it works. Stop yanking my chain, I said, and my gut was telling me that she wasn't. What are you talking about? She said. She could tell I was scared, so she immediately became the same, scared. She knew I was not yanking her chain any more than she was yanking mine, so she ran back inside the house, and I followed. Once inside, we played the video I'd recorded, and the stuff we saw and heard on that video, the same stuff I'd seen and heard while filming it, had us locking all the doors and all the windows. We've come to realize this is not our house and property. It belongs to them, and both are extremely haunted. And we've discovered many, many more types of them since that night that this house and land belong to. More stories for later, but hey, isn't that what this book is all about? But we've turned it into a win-win because we're back in business. But we've also learned to be very careful about what we wish for, because this time, we got it. The end. So I hope you enjoyed that. Another installment of October Nights. This place is creepy. Come back tomorrow for more creepiness here on Homesteading Off the Grid. And thank you for watching the videos. Thanks for buying the books. Again, if you can't afford the books, just keep coming back to hear the stories here. See you for more next time.